Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the law. This is your legal light. It is your help law. In Article 35, Clause 8, the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, 1992, reads, "The state shall take steps to eradicate corrupt practices and the abuse of power." The state, since the Fourth Republic, and even before the Fourth Republic, has been dealing with corruption as a major canker. It's the country's bane. It's the reason the country has not developed as it ought to. Those who give the country money each year for its development purposes say that the country loses as much as $3 billion each year to corruption. That was for about a decade. Now we are told that amount is in excess of $5 billion every year. The nation's coffers is pillaged. That pillage is in the nature of grand corruption. The kind of corruption that builds a road. When the rains come, the road is washed away, and the road has to be built again in a couple of years because it doesn't last. It's the kind of corruption that the country hears the dedication of billions or millions of dollars to build a hospital, to build a school. These are put up, the rains come, the roofs are off. That is grand corruption. There's a lot more that the Auditor General discovers every year. In the last 5 years alone, according to the Auditor General, almost 80 billion Ghana cedis has been stolen or misused by public officials. Welcome to the law. The setting up of the Office of the Special Prosecutor was purposely to catch these grand thieves. We call them politically exposed persons and their contractors. I'll be right back with my guest to look into the OSP law, its mandates, what it can do, what it has done, what it has failed to do, what must be done. We'll be right back. Surveys upon surveys and commissions upon commissions in the Republic of Ghana have established that something ought to be done to fight corruption and fight it effectively. All this time, the Office of the Attorney General has been in existence. So, in 2017, the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo government decided to promulgate a law, and in my hand is a copy of the bill that was used to make the law called the OSP now. It is titled Office of the Special Prosecutor Bill 2017. in its memorandum, it states why there is a need for the Office of Special Prosecutor. I read a part of it. It says, the purpose of the bill is to establish the Office of the Special Prosecutor as a specialized agency to investigate specific cases of corruption involving public officers and politically exposed persons in the performance of their functions, as well as individuals in the private sector implicated in the commission of corruption, and prosecute these offences on the authority of the Attorney General. Authority of the Attorney General. They said that the monopoly of prosecutorial authority by the Attorney General, who is hired and fired by the President, has been singled out by governance experts as one of the key factors that stand in the way of using law enforcement and prosecution as a credible tool in the fight against corruption. An Attorney General who is hired and fired by the President. We said we don't want that. Among others, they said that it's undoubted that this office will yield positive results, and that in the number of corruption cases that have been prosecuted, better than a multi-purpose or mixed mandate agency such as the Economic and Organized Crime Office. The bill therefore seeks to vest the Special Prosecutor with the authority and control required to effectively investigate and prosecute cases of corruption and restore public confidence in the justice delivery system and, by extension, government. And this is the bill. It was gazetted on the 14th of July, 2017. Now remember that in this republic, the only authority established by the Constitution to prosecute corruption is the Office of the Attorney General. Let's read Article 88. Article 88 of the 1992 Constitution says, there shall be an Attorney General of Ghana who shall be a Minister of State and the principal legal advisor to the government. The Attorney General shall discharge such other functions as of a legal nature as may be referred or assigned to him by the President or imposed on him by the Constitution or any other law. The Attorney General shall be responsible for the initiation and conduct of all prosecutions of criminal offences. Please underline that. The Attorney General responsible for the initiation and conduct of all prosecutions of criminal offences. And then let's read clause 5. It says, all offences prosecuted in the name of the Republic of Ghana shall be at the suit of the Attorney General or any other person authorized by him in accordance with law. It's only the Attorney General who can prosecute, initiate, and conduct the prosecution of criminal offenses in Ghana. That is, including corruption. Or that he, the Attorney General, will authorize someone in accordance with law to do that work. So, eventually, in 2018, we got the law known as the Office of Special Prosecutor Act 2017, Act 959. It's labeled Special Prosecutor Act 2017, but it was gazetted on the 3rd of January 2018. That's when it came into effect. And in clause at section 4 of this law, let's read it together. It says, except as otherwise provided in the Constitution, the office is not subject to the direction or control of a person or an authority in the performance of the functions of the office. 2, subject to Clause 4 of Article 88, which we have just read, of the Constitution. The office shall, for the purposes of this Act, be authorized by the Attorney General to initiate and conduct the prosecution of corruption and corruption-related offences. It has what has been given to that office, what we call the fourfold mandate, or the object of the office. What's the fourfold mandate? To investigate corruption and corruption-related offences. 2, to prosecute corruption and corruption-related offences or persons who have done so. 3, recovery, to recover proceeds of corruption and corruption-related offences. Take back all the stolen money from the people. And 4, the fourth mandate, to take steps to prevent corruption. So that is the preventative or prevention function. Then in 2018, December, the office got the teeth to bite or to operate by what is known as the Office of the Special Prosecutor Operations Regulations 2018. It is dated the 26th of November 2018, and it came into effect on the 22nd of November 2018. Subsequently, or at the same time and date, it got another regulation known as the Office of Special Prosecutor Regulation 2018, and that also came into force in the same year, month of November of 2018, and came into force in the same month of December of 2018. And this is what it uses to determine how it recruits its staff and fits the office to be proper to function. So how far have we come? Let's begin to get some education into the fourfold mandates, what they do, what they do not do, and how far they have brought us. Samuel Apia Dako is Director of Strategy, Research and Communications Division of the Office of Special Prosecutor. Thank you very much for making time to join us, Sami.
Thank you, Samson.
Right. So, what is the Special Prosecutor? Office of the Special Prosecutor, what is it?
Well, I think that in your introduction, you've talked a lot about what it is about, but essentially, as you've said, I would like to first of all take it from the international angle. There's something that we call United Nations Convention Against Corruption. And as I speak to you, all world leaders are currently gathered in Doha to review this convention. And this convention is what mandates every party, every state party, which includes Ghana, Togo, Burkina Faso, to establish an independent office that can investigate and prosecute corruption and corruption-related offenses. We call it in short ONCAC, and Ghana is signatory to this particular treaty. And I believe that it is in line with this that under the tenure of Nana Akufo-Addo, he ensured that this particular treaty was brought into fruition because Ghana did not have such an office. And if you check all over the world, the OSP is not just in Ghana. Some people think that it's only Ghana that has an OSP, except that countries give them different names. Some of them call it the National Anti-Corruption Commission. Others have different names for it. We call it the Office of the Special Prosecutor. So
in Nigeria, is the EFCC.
Yeah, Nigeria has two bodies that operate this one. They have the ICPC and then they have the EFCC, yes.
Right.
Togo established this about 2 years ago. And so, yes, countries are beginning to fulfill their obligation to UNCAC, which is that you must have an office that's very separate and independent from the executive that could police the political class as well as members of the private sector.
So your first point is that the establishment of the Office of Special Prosecutor, an independent corruption prosecutorial, investigative prosecutorial office, is an international obligation.
Yes, it is an international obligation, even before, yes. But you also notice that even domestically, our NACAP, the National Anti-Corruption Action Plan, had also talked about the fact that Ghana needs an independent agency that could investigate corruption. And
the National Anti-Corruption Action Plan of 2011, yes, coming into effect 2014, thereabout, and expired in 2024.
Yes, it had a provision that Ghana should establish such an
That's
office.
correct.
So it was a convergence of both international and domestic obligation. But just to make the point that some people think that only Ghana has an OSP. No. Most countries, the 195 or so that have signed to it, they all have an OSP in different forms. South Africa had an OSP under the tenure of Jacob Zuma. The act that established it was repealed, and most of us know what happened, where there was state capture in South Africa. And currently, as I speak to you, there's a huge debate in South Africa to re-establish their Office of the Special Prosecutor, and they are looking at what form it should take and all that. So it's an important agency that every world requires. But the beauty about this is that in Ghana, we have 4-in-1, as you've already said. So instead of having police, and when they are done with their work, they send it to the Attorney General, this is 4-in-1. So in that same office, you have an investigation division in that same office. So they are investigating. When they are done, at the same time they are investigating, you also have asset recovery and management division. They are also looking at the assets of the suspect or an accused if the person is already before the court. And then when the two are done, then they now bring it to the prosecutorial division. And so instead of having it separately, just like the police would do and then send it to the Attorney General, this time all of them are in one office, except that they are only looking at one particular genre of offense, which is corruption. And so it's an important and an interesting office because often people have been thinking that it's just, some people even think that it's just only a prosecutorial office, but no, it's a prosecutorial office that has the power to investigate, that has the power to trace and seize assets, and that has the power to prevent corruption.
To prosecute, recover, and also to prevent corruption.
Yes. I do not know if you have my slides, but
your slides have been rolling, so you can look at them and continue.
Okay. So now let's look at the vision of this office. I mean, the whole idea of this office is that the office wants to make corruption costly, as in before you try to engage in corruption, you weigh the consequences and you know that it's deadly, and so you will not engage in it. That's the long-term vision of this office. And then the mission already is what we have talked about, to investigate, and when there is sufficient evidence, to prosecute. And then also this time around, we are just not going to say if you are found guilty, your assets will be traced, seized, and then returned to the state, so that you don't go back, or even if you come back from jail, you have nothing to fall back on, or your family do not get to enjoy the loot that you've taken. So that is the deterrent effect that we are bringing to bear. And then
no one must benefit from the proceeds of their crime. That's the principle of law.
Exactly. So if you look at the OSP, our core functions, as you've said, is to investigate and prosecute cases of corruption, investigate and prosecute cases of alleged corruption and corruption-related offenses under the Criminal and Other Offences Act. So often in Ghana, there's a dilemma as to what is corruption. And I've always said that many people, any offense that involves a politician in Ghana, we call it corruption. But Corruption, as is known by OSP, is set out by law. So the lawmaker has said that these are the areas that we can investigate. The first one is public procurement breaches. The next one are specific set of offences in Act 29, which we call Criminal and Other Offences Act. And then it also talks about the people that we can investigate. It talks about politically exposed persons. And when we talk about politically exposed person, it goes all the way to include, if it's a man, it will include the wife, it will include the girlfriend, it will include the children, it will include close associates, like close friends as well. And the reverse is also true. If it's a woman, it will include the husband, the boyfriend. So anybody who is in close proximity to such a person, the law is asking us to be able to look into it. And so those are things. But generally, these are the offenses that the OSP can look at. And as I've said, our mandate is not cast at large. There are specific ones. So we have dishonestly receiving, as you can see, we have extortion, we have using public office for profit, and there's an offense called corruption itself, willful oppression, and so many of them. But typically, you can see it in three different books, which is that you look at Act 29, then you look at Public Procurement Act, and then the last one has to do with existing offenses in any other act. And this is where some people get confused and says that the OSP says that it cannot try a person for money laundering, but then they've seen...
that's been a very thorny issue, because most of the corruption issues involve money, and the money may have been, as it were, laundered. So if you cannot, deal with money laundering, that's a difficult thing. So explain that. In the Cecilia Dapa case, you did your investigations, and at the close, you said it was money laundering. So Iyoko should deal with it.
Yes. So this is the understanding. The lawmaker made it such that it says that it has restricted us to only the offenses that I've shown earlier. However, there's something that they added, corruption-related offenses. So the lawmaker is saying that we must first find an offense involving corruption. Then we can also look for corruption-related offenses. So corruption-related offenses would be the C category, which is existing offenses under enactment arising out of or consequence of offenses that I've already talked about. So, for instance, if we are able to find bribery, and at the same time, we notice that you had used the money, you had converted the money into, say, a building or into a vehicle and the rest, then we will be able to charge you with the other offenses. So, first of all, we must first have a charge of corruption. Then we can add the related offenses, whether it's causing financial loss, whether it is money laundering, or any other existing offense. So the challenge, even in the Cecilia Dapa case, that we have said that we could not find direct evidence on corruption. And so it made it impossible to then charge her with a related offense. But if we're able to find direct evidence of corruption, so let's look at the NPA case, the National Petroleum Authority case. You notice that they've been charged with abuse of office, extortion, and then money laundering. It means that we've been able to find corruption offense. Then the related offense would be the money laundering that we've added to it. Or if you take the case of the former finance minister, Mr. Oforiatta, you notice that the abuse of office and public procurement breaches, and then we added causing financial loss to the state as well. So that in a nutshell will explain why we're able to add the related offenses, except that the OSP cannot charge the related offenses as its first offense. We must always have a ground in corruption before we can add the related offenses to it.
Okay, that sounds like a perfect explanation, because questions have been asked about why in Cecilia Dapa you said that you couldn't prosecute her because her offense that you found was money laundering, and therefore you pushed the case to Iyoko, and then it got botched. And then in the MPA case, you have among the charges, you have money laundering. And I think there's one other matter too, that it was suggested that you seem to have suggested that you could not prosecute, is it abuse of office?
Influence peddling.
Yes, yeah. and then
Yes.
now you are seen to have done it. So it sounded contradictory. But your explanation is that the law empowers you that once the person you are dealing with or the persons or entities you are dealing with, you have found offenses of corruption against them, then if money laundering comes in or such other offenses come in, you are empowered to prosecute that as well under the category C that you mentioned in your prosecutorial work.
Yes, exactly so, Samson. And
Right.
then I want to move on. People have often asked us, how do we start investigation? How do we do it? Well, the lawmaker decided not to restrict us. It says that the OSP can initiate its own investigation without a complainant. When the special prosecutor took over, I remember there was a case involving the police service, and the then IGP had written correspondence back to the OSP and asking to know who is the whistleblower or who complained, and thought that the OSP cannot go into a matter if there's no complainant. The lawmaker thought about this, and so in the OSP Act, it says that the OSP does not require a complainant to investigate. And it talks about how we can initiate our own investigation. But apart from that, it even says that if we're able to even find something on WhatsApp or in a newspaper, anything on the internet, social media, the OSPs, we can trigger our own investigation. And then apart from that, we also receive complaints from other law enforcement agencies in the form of referrals. Our act says that because we are the primary office to investigate corruption, it says that if the other agencies find corruption, then they should refer it to us. So the agencies are expressly mentioned in our act. It talks about SHRAJ, that when SHRAJ finds a corruption offense, it must refer it to us. It talks about IOCO, it talks about Parliament, it talks about Audit Service, it talks about even the executive. And that is why under former President Nana Akufo-Addo, he referred the current president to us to investigate allegations of corruption in the Airbus matter. So these are some of the ways. And then it also talks about investigative journalism reports, so that if someone undertakes an investigation as a journalist, then we find merit in what the journalist has put out there, we can go into it. And then the rest will have to do with data mining and crime intelligence, including intelligence from previous investigations as well. Now,
as I see here in the Act in Section 3, beyond the other institutions also referring cases to you, beyond you initiating investigations by yourselves, recovering and managing the proceeds of corruption, disseminating information gathered in the course of investigation to competent authorities, cooperating and coordinating with competent authorities and other relevant local international agencies in furtherance of your functions, receive and investigate complaints from a person or on a matter that involves or may involve corruption and corruption-related offenses. It also says in Section 3(1)(h), receive and act on referrals of investigations of alleged corruption and corruption-related offenses by Parliament, the Auditor General's Office, the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, you mentioned that, the Economic and Organized Crime Office, and any other public body, and perform any other functions connected with the objects of the office. So, Parliament, Auditor General, and all of these people, including IOCO, can refer cases to the OSP?
Yes, they are required. It's not that they can. They are required to refer cases of corruption that they come across. So Parliament is required by law that when, and this is an area that later we can go into. So for instance, when they sit at Public Accounts Committee, we've noticed that, or the OSP is young, so maybe it's not occurred to them. We've noticed that many times they refer the cases to the Office of the Attorney General instead of, say, the OSP when it has to do with corruption. But these are things that will be straightened going forward, that Parliament ought to refer it to the OSP, and the non-corruption, they could refer it to the Attorney General. And the same thing refers to SHRAJ, Audit Service. The same thing with Audit Service, that they could refer those cases to us.
All right. Continue to educate us on the manner in which the slides appear. Go on.
Yes. So I would like to briefly also touch on the powers of the OSP. It's become an issue that many people don't understand. But as we indicate, the OSP has several powers under Act 959, which is the Parent Act. And then, so it talks about the prosecutorial and legal powers. And this is where the OSP advantage comes in, where the OSP, although it derives its power from the Attorney General, has been made independent of the Attorney General, such that the OSP can prosecute without having to send a docket for the Attorney General to advise on it. And so when the special prosecutor is convinced that a person has a case to answer, the special prosecutor proceeds directly to court without having to pass through the Attorney General. And you notice that whilst they were promulgating the OSP Act, there was an amendment to Act 30, which has to do with Ghana's Criminal Procedure Act. And they amended a section of Act 30 to allow the special prosecutor to be able to file nolle prosequa if the special prosecutor deems that a matter ought not to continue. The difference between that of the AG and Attorney General is that, and the special prosecutor is that, in the case of the special prosecutor, when he wants to enter a nolle prosequa, he must provide reasons why.
Nolle prosequa means discontinue with a case.
Yes. To discontinue a case by the special prosecutor, he needs to provide a reason to the court before he can discontinue such a case.
Attorney General doesn't have to give any reasons when he's discontinuing cases that he's prosecuting, correct?
Yes, so that's the difference. Attorney General does not provide any reason, but for the special prosecutor, the law requires the special prosecutor to give reason. You could also understand it from this point that that of the special prosecutor is later in time, and the world has moved towards transparency. And so it's now requiring that every action of prosecutors must also come with explanation.
Now, hold on there for me. You have said in respect of the power of the Office of Special Prosecutor that you are able to initiate and conduct prosecutions on your own without seeking advice from the Attorney General, like other places like Yoko and the others, which are directly under the Attorney General and may need the authorization of the Attorney General. How do you explain that in the face of Section 4.2, which says the office shall, for the purposes of this act, be authorized by the Attorney General to initiate and conduct the prosecution of corruption and corruption-related offences?
Well, I think that this is something that has gone on for a while. And I remember that in the case of Ken Kranche against the Attorney General under the previous regime, the Supreme Court had had chance to pronounce on some of these matters and said that the OSP should be left to do its work. Since the OSP was established, many people have attempted to question the OSP's powers to initiate prosecution on its own without going through the Attorney General. And even as I speak to you, in some of the cases, some of them are still raising this debate, although we've long gone. Power belongs to the people, and the people vested the power in lawmakers. And the lawmakers agreed that they were going to delegate the Attorney General's power under 88.4 to the OSP by law. And so that has already been done. The only way that can be taken away is when the OSP Act is repealed. In the case of the police, Yoko and the rest, they go by a fiat. So for instance, if you take Yoko, for instance, and they have, say, 5 lawyers, it can happen that only 2 lawyers would have been given a fiat by the Attorney General to prosecute. It means that the rest of the lawyers cannot go to court and prosecute. But if you come to the OSP, every lawyer in that office can't go to court and prosecute because we have been given the power to prosecute by law. And so that's the difference between us, the police.
So because this power of the Attorney General in Article 88 of the Constitution has been hived off and donated by the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana to the Special Prosecutor, the Special Prosecutor does not need to go to the Attorney General for advice to do its work, and the Attorney General, according to Section 4.1, cannot give direction or control to in the performance of the functions of the office, correct?
Yes, that is correct. And I think that this matter ought to rest by now, because we've long gone past these matters. As we have said, the Attorney General is the principal legal advisor to the government. It is responsible for the initiation and conduct of all prosecutions of criminal offences, with the exception that the OSP's prosecutorial power, though derived from that of the Attorney General, is secured by law, and it is exercised without specific reference to the Attorney General. And I believe this should really allow the OSP to be able to go ahead and work. And that is the beauty of the OSP, and that's the reason why from both international law and domestically, this arrangement has been made. And in the past administration and in the current administration, none of the Attorney Generals have attempted to interfere with the work of the OSP in terms of seeking to question why we are prosecuting somebody, or seeking to direct us as to who we can prosecute and who we cannot prosecute.
In the memorandum to the OSP law, it said that what we don't want is a person hired and fired by the president to do this prosecution, and that has not been effective, like it happens in the Attorney General's situation. Who appoints the special prosecutor and his deputy and the people who work there? Is it not the president? So what's the difference?
Yes, it's the president that appoints everyone in the public service, from the highest person to the cleaner or the gardener. That's the constitution that we give ourselves. So the president hires everyone in the public service, except that the president at some point delegates the powers to other people. But what makes the OSP different is that it's not just the appointment, but the special prosecutor goes through a vetting process in Parliament. And then he has to be approved by a majority of members of Parliament. The good news with the current special prosecutor is that it was a unanimous approval of his mandate. Then secondly, the lawmaker also granted a fixed tenure of office for the special prosecutor, which is that the special prosecutor currently enjoys 7-year non-renewable tenure, and he cannot be fired at the will of the president. So the difference between the special prosecutor and the other agencies, such as, say, the IGP or EOCO head or the NIB head, is that whereas they can be fired at the will of the president, the special prosecutor cannot be fired at the will of the president.
The special prosecutor and the deputy.
And the deputy, yes, they cannot be fired at the will of the president. That is why you've seen that in the past administration, 2 persons did file a petition for the removal of the special prosecutor. That has to do with Martin Amidu, the first special prosecutor, and Ken Koranche as well. And both petitions were dismissed as not having any grounds to initiate even investigation into the matter. And currently you have other people too who have filed petition to want to remove. That tells you the mechanisms that they put in place in the law, that the special prosecutor cannot be fired or hired at the will of the president. So tomorrow, for instance, the president, if he's not happy with the Attorney General, or if he's not happy with the EOCO boss, can fire EOCO boss.
Yes, and but unlike the SP and the deputy, who are enjoying the terms and conditions of the Justice of the Court of Appeal and the High Court, they have to be taken through a process if you want them removed on stated grounds of misbehavior. Now, let's move on from there, because I think we haven't gone as far as your slides are concerned.
I'll try and move quickly.
Yes.
And the other one is that the OSP has full police powers. It's also, if you look at Section 28 of the, some people have come to the office, and when they've been placed under arrest, they get surprised and ask, on what basis the OSP are arresting me? But the law gives the OSP full police powers in the exercise of its mandate in relation to corruption and corruption-related offences.
Right. Section 28 that you refer to is headed Officers to Exercise Powers of Police. The special prosecutor and authorized officer shall exercise the powers of a police officer specified in the Criminal and Other Offences Procedure Act 1960, Act 30, or any other enactment. Please, let's move on to... Yes, okay, go ahead.
This is an important one to that. The OSP also have what we call protective and support powers. Just briefly, I want to talk about it. You know, the OSP even has powers to intercept your calls. So, and these are things that a lot of people have not averted their minds to. The OSP can intercept, listen to any conversation by means of communication, except that it will need permission from the court. It has to go to court without notice to you in order to secure a court order to be able to intercept your communication.
But that will be on the basis that you are a subject of OSP investigations. Okay.
Yeah. All right. The other one, which I would like to briefly touch on, has to do with cooperation with other law enforcement agencies. We are supposed to cooperate with other law enforcement agencies, both in Ghana and abroad. That's why occasionally you find the OSP work with the FBI or work with the Belgians or work with the National Crime Authority in the UK and the rest.
Right.
Briefly, these are the powers of the OSP. But the last one, which is very intrusive, has to do with the asset and property powers of the OSP, where the OSP can seize your property, where the OSP can freeze your property, where the OSP can ask you to declare your income and property. Often people confuse that as asset declaration. No, the OSP has been given its own asset declaration regime, where if you become a suspect, you will be required to declare your property and income, and failure to do that is a criminal offense. You have 30 days within which you are supposed to complete this and return it to us. It's supposed to help the OSP do what we call a lifestyle audit on you. And property or things that you don't declare, when the OSP is able to find out, are subject to automatic forfeiture as well. So that has to do with the powers of the OSP. Now, what is the role of citizens? I feel that it's always become, what can the OSP do? But the question is also that what can citizens do? And for us, there are three things that we want citizens to do. We want them to resist corruption, we want them to reject corruption, and then we want them to report corruption. And that is why we have provided several avenues through which you can report corruption. So you can report corruption when you visit the OSP website. There are two options. You can report corruption anonymously, where your details will not be required. Nothing of yours will be required. Or you can report with your details. Or we have a toll-free line which you can call with the 0800-000-700. And then you don't pay for anything. The OSP takes up the cost of that.
Yeah, you don't pay for anything. Recently, did we hear that somebody who reported acts of corruption you worked on, the person had to be compensated? Do you compensate people for reporting corruption to your office?
So the compensation is in the form of when that is successful, as in you reported a case, we investigated a case, and then there was recovery.
As in the Whistleblowers Act?
Yes. When there is recovery, then the lawmaker says that you will enjoy up to 10% of what will be given to the OSP. As in the OSP retains 40% when it's able to make recoveries, and you are entitled to up to 10% of the 40% that the OSP will recover.
That sounds like good business.
It's a good business, but often it's tedious because it must lead to successful recovery. And that's the part that makes it a bit tedious. Right. But then it's not just reporting, but the law is also requiring the OSP to protect you when your life is in danger because you reported corruption. And that lawmaker also enabled.
You were talking about the reporting lines from which you will now go to the legal framework on the whistleblowing, which I've already, jumped you into.
Yes. So I was just trying to say that there are a lot of protective avenues that the OSP is empowered to use to protect you if your life is in danger. I think that the problem has been that people over the years say that they do not trust the system because when they report, then somebody blows their cover or tell them what has happened. But at the OSP, trust us that we are very professional, and the law empowers us that if it means even relocating you, we are supposed to do that to protect you, but it must be something very substantial. Often people just think that because you just said that you suspect this person owns a house, then it means you just qualify to be protected.
And that is the important thing, is that is why they must do it confidentially and quietly, so that they don't report. And it's something curious. It happens only in this country, right? People blow the whistle, and they are the ones telling all media houses that I have blown the whistle.
Yeah, that's very, very dangerous. And often we ask people not to do that. There have been people who have reported matters to us, and we tell them that please do not tell people. But you see that the acknowledgement letter from the OSP is even shared on social media, and just to say that they are doing something. I think some people.
I was hoping that we can get one or two people join us, ask their questions. But quickly take us through the bigger issue that has engaged the minds of people about whether or not you have had any successes or achievements so far. Tell us about them. What have you done?
Okay, so thank you so far. So far, the OSP has done remarkably well if you look at how young it is. We do appreciate that people often want to measure the OSP from 2018 when it was set up. But the OSP had teething problems with its setup. You see that the first special prosecutor did not complete his tenure and left office. The office was left without a leader for almost a year and a half. It almost died. And so when Kissi Ejabin took over in 2021, in August, he decided to now rebuild the office. So what people do not know is that we have been building this office from scratch, which means that apart from an empty building that was donated to the office had to be built from scratch, which means that you need to develop all the divisions of the office. You need to employ people. You need to put in place the infrastructure to be able to investigate.
And let's say all of them fairly reasonably, recruitment came to an end, so to speak,
somewhere around
what
2023. All of them 2023.
Okay.
So Kissi took back 2021. It was not until 2023 that the office had its full staff with some realistic logistics to be able to work. Remember that the office was also set up without an establishment budget. So the office is being built from the annual budget, which is not enough. So I'm saying that the office has had problems, and people think that the office was just there and everything is there. Even as we speak, we do not have a forensic lab.
What have you been able to do from sometime in 2023 when you eventually then were ready to kick off?
So far, we've had 7 convictions. People have asked that the OSP has not been able to even prosecute and jail an ant, but that is not accurate. The OSP has had 7 convictions. These convictions, people have asked, who are they, where are they? Yes, they are Ghanaians who engage in serious
The greater number of them were for plea bargains, is that not so?
Yes, this was for plea bargain, but what is important is that this one had to do with the ghost names, where we were losing almost 34 million Ghana cedis every year just in the northern region alone. And so we had 6 convictions, and more people are being put before the courts because it was not just the 6, it was more than them. And we also had one more conviction in the case of, what was his name? I've forgotten his name, but it had to do with Galamsey investigations, where we had one conviction as well. So yes,
and 33 persons standing trial. Time is running out.
Yes, and the OSP has 33 persons standing trial, from Kenneth Ofuriatta to Mustafa Hamid and all that. So far, we've been able to we've been able to save about 2.9 billion Ghana cedis for the state.
Is it 2.9 or 12.9 billion I'm seeing here?
Sorry, 12.9 billion in savings and suspended transaction. And this is the power of the OSP that many have not averted their minds to. It has to do with our preventive powers. So our preventive powers will ensure that monies that would have gone into private pockets do not go into private pockets. And when we total them within this short period, it's about 12.9 billion.
Does this include the La Bianca and other things that you did?
Yes, it includes the investigations into the customs. It includes investigations into SML. It includes investigations into
Martin Amidu did the corruption assessment risk
it
report.
includes the Ejapa as well.
Ejapa, okay.
Yes, it includes the Ejapa as well. And if you look at the cases, I don't know if you have the cases. These are our active cases. Some people also do not know that the OSP have active cases, and these cases involve a total of 33 persons, and these are not low people. Look at the Republic vs. Kenneth Nanayo Furiata, involve former commissioners of GRA. You have the Mustafa Ahmed, which involves significant public officers. If you go to the northern region, you have the Republic vs. Suleimana Abdurrahman and 3 others. These were those who were in charge of the Northern Development Authority, the boss and 2 deputies, plus a private contractor. So there've been a lot of things that we've done. And if you look at our cases, you notice that now, since we got full staff and some more logistics, you notice that the number of investigations have increased. And currently we are handling 67 active cases. And these are big cases. For instance, I can talk about the MIF, Minerals Income and Investment Fund, which involves not less than $94 million. This is a huge money. We are looking at fuel diversion, which involves millions of Ghana cedis. That many people in the OMCs took from the state. Some took 400 million, 200 million, and these are substantial monies that we are looking into and investigating. And if you look at our preventive powers, I'll touch on the last one, which since time is not on our side. We've been actively working on the young people, and we've started a program called Youth Against Corruption, where we are targeting the young ones and saying that they should join the fight against corruption now, because it is their future that is being stolen, and that if they join it now, they will have a better future, as well as currently things will be better for them. And we've been going around the country educating the young people and showing them what it is that they can do to join the fight against corruption. And we've had some beautiful testimonials from some of the schools. We've been also going to the rich schools especially, because the belief is that that is where you find some more monies there. And if these children are able to tell their dads when they go back home that this trade that you are doing, I'm told that is corruption, it may break the minds of that parent and all that. And then these young people eventually will be able to report acts of corruption also to us. So Samson, there's a lot that the office is doing, and it's just an issue about time. I've always said that it's an issue about time. Many people are putting a lot of pressure on the OSP to deliver, which is good, is welcome. But we also think that people should understand it in context that the OSP is relatively young and it has some challenges. It's overcome many of the challenges. We've had a lot of support from the European Union. For instance, they are building the biggest forensic lab in Ghana for the OSP, ISO certified. It should be completed this December, and by January onwards, there will be training for the staff to be able to use it. The EU is also providing for us interrogation rooms, modern interrogation rooms, because now we just use a makeshift interrogation rooms. The Americans have helped us with computers, and there are so many things that the office is putting together. But at the same time, we also understand that people want us to deliver. So we are setting up the office and at the same time also delivering. And that is why people, and then the last one has to do with the cases in court. People think that, or I think they reasonably expect that the cases will be faster, but these are not things that are in the control of the OSP. It's in the control of the judiciary. And I'm aware that there are talks to shorten the period of trial, because the average criminal trial could take between 5 and 7 years, and people cannot wait for that period. But then the blame is pushed back to the OSP that has not been able to convict anyone. But the cases are in court, and the OSP cannot do anything in terms of shortening the lifespan of the trial. And so the OSP is here to stay. They are very professional, and we are working on a number of cases, and there are many cases also in court. And the hope is that when these cases start materializing and we're able to secure conviction, everybody will know that something has been done, Samson.
All right, Samuel Apiadako, I hope that there would have been the opportunity, so we'll engage our audiences so they will have questions for you. But unfortunately, this is where we draw the curtains. Maybe we'll make another time so that you will answer questions that members of the public will have to ask, particularly about how they can actively be engaged and participate in stopping the corruption. Thank you very much.
We do engage members also on social media. We do have time on X with people, and also you'll notice that our Facebook account is very active, where we do engage citizens. I know that some people have expressed reservations that why does our handle respond to people? And we are only saying that we respond to people because we understand that we are a relatively young institution and people are now getting to understand us. There's also a lot of propaganda. And so
thank you very much, Samuel Appiah-Darko, Director, Strategy, Research and Communications Division of the Office of Special Prosecutor. I hope that we have been able to assist you to appreciate the Office of Special Prosecutor, its mandate, its functions, its powers, and what he says are its achievements, a bit of some of the challenges that have come up that we're able to share with you. This has been The Law. It's your legal light. It is your health law. Have a good afternoon.
In the skies, at sea, and on land, we have eyes everywhere. We see it all. When you're involved in corruption and think you're hiding, we will get you.